Hi guys, Grand J here and welcome to another one of our videos. In today's video we'll be talking about the new Opus IX cards for the wind element. Do know I'll be talking about these cards in a constructed sense, not in a sealed or draft sense, so let's get started. So the first card we'll be looking at is Ahriman. It is a free cost monster that's during your turn, Ahriman also becomes a forward with 7,000 power. When Ahriman deals damage to your opponent, choose one forward of cost 5 or more and opponent controls, break it. So simply because this card breaks a 5 cost when it successfully deals damage to your opponent is probably not going to let their 5 cost dull, so your opponent is probably going to be blocking with their 5 cost. So overall, it just makes it very difficult for this card to successfully trigger off its ability, because your opponent's going to have a guy that's going to block this attack, right? So amongst all the different types of effects, the ones that trigger off when they deal damage to your opponent are the ones that are like most difficult to trigger, simply because your opponent has to allow this to stay alive, your opponent has to not block it, and then your opponent has to subsequently take damage in order for you to just break a forward that costs 5 or more, right? So if your opponent doesn't even have a 5 cost forward, then this doesn't even like make a difference, right? It doesn't even get any sort of like bonus ability. So overall, this ability is quite narrow. And Wind already has so many cards that just like crap on 5 cost forwards so easily. Like, the issue with Fire is that they kind of haven't really sort of figured out what their element identity is, but Wind, they just go too hard on their two like identities. Like Wind just like says, oh yeah, reactivate all our stuff and just like shit on 5 costs super hard. Like everything's gonna just shit on 5 costs to a point where like you don't need any more cards in Wind that just shit on 5 costs, man. And like this isn't even the first Ahriman just that shits on 5 costs. We've already got an Ahriman from set 4 that just like for the same cost of putting the other Ahriman into play, you can kill a 5 cost. So the old Ahriman, you just pay 2 to put it into play, and then you can just pay 1 wind to break a 4 to cost 5 more. It doesn't even have to be your opponent. You can just break your own stuff if you want, right? But this Ahriman, like, it has to break your opponent's 5 costs, right? So yeah, so overall this card just seems like really, really difficult to trigger off its ability, and then like the bonus isn't even that good because Wind already has so many other cards that can do it pretty easily. And the simple fact that it's what category Crystal Hunt, like this has nothing to do with like the Crystal Hunt background. So I've played the Crystal Hunt game, and it's like kind of fun, like casual game to play. And like in that game, it's kind of like Go Fish. So if you pull an Ahriman from your opponent's hand, it's like actually Old Maid. So if you pull a like Ahriman from your opponent's hand, you get a penalty. You get a penalty for it, right? So how come they didn't like draw any inspiration from that, right? So it'd be totally cool if this Ahriman, this Crystal Hunt Ahriman, was something like, oh yeah, if this card is revealed from your hand due to your opponent's cost, or discarded from your hand due to your opponent's ability, then like, yeah, reveal this card, and then like your opponent discards a card as well, or some shit like that, right? Something cool like that, but this is just like super generic, and Wind already has so many cards that do the same thing, so this card just like probably won't see play. Next card is Adele. She is a 4 cost 7k forward, so she is below the curve. She is FFTA2 category though. If you control a FFTA2 forward other than Adele gets plus 2,000 power and haste, which is good. If you control 5 or more backups, Adele cannot be blocked. So in certain ways, this is a bulkier version than the previous Adele that we had. So previous Adele fundamentally had the same thing. So she was a free cost 5k, so also below the curve. She inherently had haste, and then for 1 win, her ability is Adele cannot be blocked that turn. So fundamentally, these both are just like very sort of sneaky, hasty sort of characters, which I guess like really plays into her character. So yes, this is like good characterization, like translated into cards very well, right? So like the free cost Adele is already good enough for what she did. Like technically, the size of your body or the size of your forward's power does not really matter if it can't be blocked, right? It only just like affects their ability to be removed by like summons and abilities. So yeah, so buffing up Adele doesn't make her more difficult to block, because inherently she just like has the ability to not be blocked anyways, right? So it's actually more difficult to hit the 5 backup restriction than the previous Adele's just like pay 1 wind, right? And the previous Adele had just like inherently haste, so this new Adele requires you to have an FFTA2 forward on the field to give her 2,000 power and haste. So yeah, like she does become a 9k, but like I said, like the point of this card is to just sneak through damage to your opponent's life, right? So like the power doesn't really matter, and like her haste ability is actually really gimpable, right? So if you happen to have an FFTA2 forward, and you're like playing the strategy, so like let's say you got Luso or whatever on the field, right? You can play the Adele. Yes, she's a 4 cost 9k with haste. Like, yeah, it's going to be annoying for your opponent to kill your Adele, but they don't have to kill the Adele. They just kill your other guy, and all of a sudden this Adele doesn't have haste anymore. She can't attack, and it doesn't matter if she can't be blocked, because if she doesn't have haste, it doesn't really matter, right? So, like, both her effects are way more way more conditional than the previous Adele's effects, and like so because of that, she's far more inconsistent and far more difficult to trigger her purpose of the card, right? And as a result, she feels like she's worse, even though she can have a bigger body. So yeah, overall, like I think this is actually a downgrade from the previous Adele in terms of card's ability. Next, we have Van. Man, like this set is just like so bad for Wind. Like I think the design team have like kind of realized that like Wind has just been like too good for too many sets in a row, so they just gave Wind a whole bunch of like really like substandard cards. They're not bad, like they don't like proactively lose you the game, but like they basically just like they hold you back, man. Playing these cards is like going into Dragon Ball Z, like, and you're trying to have a fight, and you're just going in with weighted clothes, man. You're just like you're purposely handicapping yourself just for the extra challenge. That's what Wind is from this set. It's the extra weights that they want to put onto you to make it a fair fight. So, Van, it's a free cost 7,000 power forward. He's a Sky Pirate. You can dull 2 active Job Sky Pirate forwards you control instead of paying CP cost to play Van from your hand onto the field. Like, there are only free Sky Pirate forwards other than Van in the game, and that's Fran, Balthier, and Redis, right? So it's not like you got a huge selection of cards that you can choose from, right? And Redis hasn't even been in the game since like Opus II, right? So he has like there's no other Redis cards. You have a shit ton of Balthier cards and a shit ton of Van cards. But yeah, so it's like, wow, cool. Like how are you going to dull 2 Sky Pirates if there are only like 2 really in the game, right? And they have to be Sky Pirate forwards. It wouldn't have even been overpowered in any sense if it just says dull like 2 Sky Pirates full stop. Yeah, because then that way you can like dull a Fran and dull a Balthier to get a Van out. So it's like 1 back or 1 forward. That's fine. So yeah, so it does kind of combo with the legendary Balthier from Opus II because that Balthier can reactivate himself every time you play a backup. So you can dull this Balthier and dull a Fran forward. And then, like, yeah, you can put it back up into play, and then that reactivates Balthier, so he can attack or block or whatever. But overall, yeah, this Van has no other effects, man. Like, if this Van had an enter-play ability, or even back attack or something, then, like, it would give you some purpose to play Van. But there are, like, just so many other Vans with, like, actually an effect, to the point where it's, like, there's no point of playing this card. Like, the cost, you don't even get a good cost discount, man. Yeah. Like, even if it was, like, just a vanilla free cost of 7k, if it said even just, like, dull 1 Sky Pirate, then, like, maybe we can look at it, right? But, like, yeah, dull 2 Job Sky Pirates, yeah. Like, yeah, nah. It's so bad. It's so bad. Why even bother? Nah. Next card is Viera. It is a 2-cost standard unit backup, and this is Wind's pay extra standard unit backup. So when Viera enters the field, you may pay Wind. When your opponent, if you do so, deal 3,000 damage to all forwards your opponent controls. So for some of you guys who have been playing like competitively recently, Wind Water has been particularly good in the recent metagame because it does have a good combination with Fina and Valifor. You can basically do very easily 8k to your opponent's entire board, which is like just a very easy, convenient board wipe. Now, Viera does allow Mono Wind to sort of do that similarly as well. So, yeah, so like unfortunately, Mono Wind isn't really so it can play Valifor, but it doesn't get the reactivation value from having Yuna. So this Viera kind of gives you a similar sort of ability. So yeah, so you can't just play it as a 2 CP backup. But that being said, the Wind has so many good 2 CP backups, it's really hard to sort of justify this card. And yeah, so you're paying effectively free CP to just put in a backup and deal free K to all your opponent's guys, which I guess you can combo with Fina. So overall, so yeah, it's a more ghetto way to pull off that combo in a mono win strategy. In terms of mid games, it can also be used as a trading tool. So there's a whole bunch of win forwards that like Win has just like some of the best like free CP 7Ks. And yeah, they don't trade into like, they don't like beat up like 8Ks and 9Ks. But if you have a card like Viera, then yeah, you can trade them up into combat as well. So if you are playing cards like Pain, or if you're playing like similar cards like Ranger or stuff like that, stuff that you don't really care about whether they live or die, you can just run them into your opponent's larger guys and then just like chuck a Viera down afterwards. But yeah, so overall this card's not particularly great. Like a card that's very similar is Geomancer. So Geomancer is a 2-cost standard unit backup from an older set. When it comes into play, deal 2,000 damage to all your opponent's forwards. So yeah, so you're paying 1 extra CP, an optional 1 extra CP to get 3,000 damage, and then get no damage at all if you don't pay the extra CP. So in my opinion, it's probably better to play Geomancer if you do want to play this sort of route, or even like playing the free cost backup Dancer that can just like dull itself to do 1k to all your opponent's guys. Those are all like generally pretty like relevant alternatives, and so because of that, I think that it's very difficult to consider this card in a competitive deck. Next we have Edge. It is a free cost 7,000 power forward. It is a ninja from category 4. It's got back attack. You can only pay with CP produced by Wind to play Edge from your hand onto the field. When Edge enters the field, select one of the two following actions. Choose one forward, deal 4,000 damage, or choose one category 4 forward other than Edge. It gains plus 4,000 until the end of the turn. It's really weird how they space this out. So normally when it says select one of the following actions, it's usually like .1, .2, but here they just kind of bleed it into the same text, which is kind of weird. I guess they were just trying to save like a save space on the card. So the simple fact that it requires you to pay only win backups to put them into play is like really restrictive, irrespective of whether you use the back attack effect or not. So he's basically like Legendary Tidus from Opus IX, I believe. Yeah. So that Legendary Tidus, it had arguably a stronger ability than Edge does. But that being said, though, like Wind is much better able to play this card than Mono Water can, simply because Wind has so many reactivation abilities. Simply like having a layout down allows you to just reactivate all your Wind backups, and you can pretty much guarantee your ability to play Edge, right? So Wind has a much easier time to play playing Edge, but the restriction on Edge is just so much more narrow, right? Dealing 4,000 damage. Dealing 4,000 damage isn't particularly great. It's fine to allow your forwards to trade up, and its ability to buff a category 4 forward other than Edge. Like, there are quite a number of category 4 forwards in the game, but because Edge requires you to have free win backups, it means you're so heavily invested into like mono win backups that it's very difficult to splash in other elements, right? So yeah, you can try splashing in like a very light splash of whatever your second color might be, which is like maybe lightning or water or fire or whatever. But in that sort of situation, you're pushing further back in the game when you can play Edge, right? So like if on the situation where you are on 4 backups, like yeah, you have to have 1 fire backup to play your fire cards and then 3 win backups, right? It's just so restrictive of like the colors that you need to have on your backups and the number that you have to have available in order to play Edge, right? So it's just really restrictive that I don't really see this card really being playable outside of like straight mono wind. Even then, I don't think it's particularly playable as well. Do know it says like with CP produced by wind backups, so backups that can produce wind CP but aren't wind color or aren't wind element, they can't fulfill Edge's conditions. So cards like Shantoto can, but cards like Chaos and Cosmos can't. And the new Moogle, that's the new Ice Moogle that can also dull itself for wind CP, doesn't fulfill this condition either. So it's just really annoying in that regard. As for some relevant forwards that it can hit in mono wind, you pretty much only have 2. It is Barbarisha and you have Cecil. So those are both FF4. Barbarisha is actually pretty decent. I guess like if you're playing Barbarisha during your turn, you can also just like use Edge to deal the 4,000 damage as well. So that's one combination that's both relevant on offense and defense. So on offense, like on your turn, you can like play Edge, deal 4,000 to one of your opponent's guys, and then play Barbarisha to finish it off. On defense, you can just like block with the Barbarisha and then pump up your Edge, pump her up with Edge. So I guess that's a thing, right? In terms of Cecil, Cecil like already just gets super beefy, and he does reactivate backup. So I guess if you do happen to have like 1 backup open and you play the Cecil down, you reactivate 2 of your like win backups. It's like very sneaky that you've just kind of given yourself the free win CP you need to like play Edge and buff up your Cecil, right? And yeah, if you do get that stage where Cecil can't be chosen by abilities, then like yeah, it's very difficult for your opponent to interrupt Cecil, like the buff that Edge gives to Cecil. That being said, though, Cecil like can't be chosen by your opponent's abilities, and he gets plus 2,000. So 10,000 is already like pretty big. So I don't think like Cecil will really need that much more of a buff on top of him. So like Edge just doesn't really fulfill a particularly necessary task in the game, and because of that, I don't really think he's going to see play. Although, like, to be honest, like, yeah, if you just want to have fun, yeah, maybe just chuck 1 Edge into the deck just for the lols. Next, we have Shemhazai. It is a 2-cost summon. Select one of the 3 following actions. Choose 1 backup of cost 3 or more, return it to its owner's hand. Choose 1 monster of 3 or more, break it, or activate all forwards you control. So, there's not a lot of fantastic ways to use this card. So, like, a lot of the win, like, modal abilities like Ashura and Diablos, they all have good abilities on them, right? So Shemhazai just seems to have like all the like crap abilities and just like attach them all to 1 card, right? So choose a backup of cost 3 or more, return to its owner's hand. So the best application for this card is probably like, yeah, you get to bounce one of your opponent's 1k buffs, during combat, so it's like it becomes a combat trick. So bouncing back a walk at the hand is pretty good when your opponent's committed to an attack. Bouncing back like certain consumable backups that cost 4 more is probably pretty cost efficient. So like bouncing back Luna Freya or bouncing back Devout to your opponent's hand is probably pretty good as well. Note it does say to choose any backup of cost 3 or more, so you can bounce your own stuff. So if you do want to play the Fat Chocobo deck, yes, you can technically bounce it back to your own hand with Chephin's Eye. I'm not sure if you want to pay 2 CP to do it though. Yeah, like Miyun probably seems like a better way to bounce up your own big backups. But I guess this is an extra card if you really want to go deep on that strategy. Choose a monster of cost 3 or more, break it. Wind already has like straight up the best monster breaking summon in the game in Alexander, right? Just like straight up choose a monster, kill it. And also it's EX burst, and also like, yeah, if it EX burst, you also got a secondary ability of reactivate one of your backups and draw a card, right? So like Alexander's just super good. And yeah, Chephin's Eye, it's like kill monsters of cost 3 or more. So that's kind of narrow. Like they're like there's a very wide range on the cost of good monsters. Like certain monsters like Layak and Cactuars cost 1, so they're really good. It doesn't hit those. Certain monsters cost 2. Doesn't hit those as well. But like on the small subsection of monsters that cost 3, this can't hit them, right? But yeah, like I honestly don't think it's like I honestly think that it's a pretty weak and niche sort of ability to attach onto this card. And finally, activate all forwards you control. It's like, yeah, but Wind can do that so easily with so many cards already. So like every Wind deck is like running triple Diabolos, and like triple Diabolos, you're probably doing it to just kill your opponent's 5 or to like make your opponent's 4 cost really bad. But you also just get like a second ability attached onto it, so just like reactivate all your forwards. So I don't think you really need that much more if you're already running triple Diabolos, right? Oh yeah, another thing to note I forgot about Chephin's Eye's first ability is that yes he can bounce like backups of cost 3 or more, but your opponent's backups of cost 3 or less, you can already break with Archer / Ninja. And if your opponent has a big like 4 cost backup as well, you can break it using Alexander, right? So there was an Alexander from I believe Opus VIII that it just straight up says break a character of cost 4 or more, right? So yeah, so if your opponent's got a good like backup that costs 4 more, you can just like break with Alexander. Especially since like certain people are starting to experiment around with like 5 cost Una backup. Yeah, so Alexander's way better at killing her than like for you to play Chephin's Eye just to bounce back to your hand, just to allow them to play it down again, right? So overall, it's just like pretty weak. I think it's a very undesirable win summon overall, and I probably wouldn't play it at all. Next, we have Sylph. It's a 1-cost EX burst. All forwards you control gain plus 1,000 power until the end of turn. Draw 1 card. So this is basically classic Sylph from Opus 1, but you are changing the activation effect with draw a card, right? So overall, in terms of cost, it's like way better than the previous Sylph, right? So like with 1 win CP, just give all you guys plus 1k buff and draws a card. So it does replace itself. So it's like a random, like, so it's like random, like 1k buff that effectively only costs you 1 CP, right? So it's very cost efficient for what it does. And there's probably a lot of situations in Wind where your opponent's just like very narrowly able to kill your guys. So giving you guys an extra plus 1k buff can sort of get them over the line, right? And this combos well with the legendary Aerith, where if your guys don't receive damage that's less than their current power. So if your opponent happens to be able to chuck like an 8k packet of damage at one of your guys, then you can use Sylph to like pump it up a little bit, and then like Aerith just basically like completely prevents the damage, right? So this does combo very well with Aerith. But you don't get the reactivation, which can be kind of annoying. That's like kind of a big bonus to the previous Sylph, is that you can attack with a guy and then like you can reactivate it on defense as well. So it is a bit of a drawback there, but Win has like a ton of other options that they can use to reactivate their forwards as well. So it's not a huge big drawback if you just want to play this card just for the extra buff. Buffing all your guys by 1,000 is actually really, really cost effective as well. So overall, I do like this card. I don't think it's necessary in Wind, simply because Wind has like a ton of ways to like currently like deal with forwards, so you don't really need to be like competing on a combat basis too much. So yeah, overall it's a great card, and you probably won't go wrong by playing it, but like right now in like the current Win metagame, it's like not necessary. That's it. Next we have 7. So we did speak about Geomancer a little bit earlier in this set review, but we'll go over 7. So she's a 3-cost Class 0 cadet. She's got back attack. When 7 enters the field, deal 2,000 damage to all forwards your opponent controls. So she basically is Geomancer that costs 1 more, but you also get the bonus of back attack. So I guess the main bonus to having back attack is that, yeah, when your opponent attacks you with their forwards, and their forwards are larger than yours, you can block with your guys that are slightly smaller, and then you can just like end of turn play 7, and then deal 2,000 damage to your opponent, right? So the ideal situation is like, let's say your opponent's got like 2 8Ks or 9Ks, and you have like 2 7Ks. Your opponent attacks with like their 2 big guys, you block with your 2 small guys, both your guys die, right? And your opponent's thinking, oh yeah, sweet, I just like killed 2 of his guys in combat, I'm pretty good, right? And then like, yeah, main phase 2, son, just like play 7, 2K to all your opponent's guys, and your opponent's like, oh yeah, shit. Oh well, sucks to be me. So that's a one benefit to being back attack, right? But you actually have to keep 1 CP open in order to kind of do it cost efficiently. And yeah, she's also like a class 0 cadet, so I guess that tag does kind of help her relevance a little bit. But she is named 7, so she unfortunately conflicts with one of the really good class 0 cadets from the original release. So the previous 7 was a 2-cost 4K. Old job class 0 cadet forward to control cannot be blocked by a forward that costs 4 more, right? So that's just like straight up really, really good. It's probably less good now in the current metagame just because like there's a lot more like relevant free costs in the game. Back in the day, yeah, if you chuck down a 4-cost AK, he was a beefy blocker, right? And yeah, 7 could just allow your entire team to just like get through attacks, right? So she just provides a massive buff to the entire team, and also she had like a really strong, unique S ability back then, Snakebite, which is choose one special ability or auto ability cancels effect, right? So just for an S, right? So overall, yeah, like I think that the new 7 is it's not necessarily overcosted, but it's like it's unnecessarily costed for what it does, and you probably can't justify playing this card even in a class 0 cadet deck, just because like 7 is like the previous 7 is just like way better than this card by a huge margin. Next we have Silky. She is a 3-cost 7k forward. She's a standard unit. When Silky attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a win forward, add it to your hand. So pretty much the fact that it restricts the card that you reveal to add to your hand as a win forward pretty much restricts this card to like a mono win strategy at best, right? Like, yeah. So even at the best odds, you've probably got 50% of your deck as forwards, maybe give or take, maybe like 2 or 3 cards, right? So we'll just like sort of guesstimate it to somewhere along the lines of 50% chance, right? So it might be like 45, might be 55, depending on like how many cards in your deck, right? But overall, it's like, yeah, you attack with this card and there's like basically a 50% chance that you'll get a free win forward, right? So otherwise, it's just like vanilla free CP7K. And there are just so many good free CP7Ks in Wind already, right? So it's like, Y'shtola and Air for just like the primo targets at the moment, but like, Wind is just like playing triple Zidane, which can become a 7K. And like the fact that, like there's other slightly less premium, but still pretty good standard units, like in the form of Ranger. Yeah, this just clashed with them really hard, just for the opportunity for this Silky to potentially get on a 50% chance to draw you a card on the following turn, right? So overall, like, it is kind of restrictive to play this card. Yeah, I don't think you'll get the effect off too often. On the upside, though, it is FFCC, so it does fall into that FFCC archetype of Chelinka and Yuri. So Chelinka can buff this card or like allow her to deal a little bit more damage in combat. But overall, like, yeah, her ability is just like, you're not going to see the benefits of her ability too often. Just because it just takes so long for you to have an opportunity to attack with her, right? So you play her, your opponent has to let her leave, and then you have to attack successfully with her, even if you do want to attack, right? So your opponent might just straight up play a big guy, and then all of a sudden you may not want to attack for your Silky, right? So yeah, so overall it's just kind of too restrictive, and like it's too narrow, and even at best when you do activate its ability, it's only 50% chance, so it's not great. And because of that, I love the artwork. It's great artwork, I love the artwork, but yeah, card is not good enough to see competitive play. Next, we have Chocobo. It's a 4-cost 7,000 power forward, so it is below the curve. It is a standard unit. When a card named Chocobo you control forms a party and attacks, all forwards in that party gain plus 1,000 power until the end of turn. So do note that this triggers for each Chocobo in the party. So every time a Chocobo within a party forms a party, each card in that party gets plus 1,000, right? So if you have only one Chocobo joining into a party attack, all the forwards in that party get plus 1,000. But if you're party attacking with 2 Chocobos, they both trigger, so they both get plus 2,000 each, right? So it triggers for each Chocobo you have in the field, and I guess like because this card's a standard unit as well, it does stack as well. So if you happen to have two of these Chocobos on the field, and then if you have like two Chocobos party attacking, they both get plus 4,000 power, right? So yeah, so this is one of those cards that kind of just like snowballs up, and you get some pretty crazy like party attacks if you do get into that situation, right? But yeah, so he also happens to be the first Chocobo that costs 4, which means he's the biggest Chocobo that you can play in for free using Chocobo Knight. So I guess that's kind of a little bonus as well, that you're effectively cheating him. And you probably don't want to pay 4 CP to put this Chocobo into play, but using Chocobo Knight to put him into play for free is pretty good. That being said, though, it seems a little bit unnecessary with the old Fat Chocobo. So the old Fat Chocobo, which I believe is Opus 4, it had the ability of like Dull, give one of your Chocobos plus 2,000 power until the end of turn, right? So like inherently, like it basically took you away from the party attack Chocobo strategy and just made your Chocobos like really fat, right? So you made all your Chocobos just plus 2,000, and then you had like cards like Maria and cards like Arc that like increases their power. So you'd be swinging with these like 8k, 9k Chocobos without party attacking, right? So like using this Chocobo to like buff them up a little bit more on like the condition of them forming parties seems a little bit unnecessary in my mind. But yeah, so if you do decide to play this Chocobo, it would probably strictly be with the new Fat Chocobo, which could replace the old Fat Chocobo in certain Chocobo strategies, right? So yeah, this basically forces you down the party attack line. But yeah, so in the old school Chocobo deck, wouldn't play this card. But in the like potentially new school Chocobo deck that's all about party attacking, then maybe. Talking about Fat Chocobo, it's a 4-cost backup. Its job is Chocobo, so it's not a standard unit. Its ability is when Fat Chocobo enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add all card named Chocobo among them to your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. So this does not restrict how many cards you add to your hand, right? So like, if you do play this Fat Chocobo card, you are losing the ability to play the previous Fat Chocobo, which was like pretty good value as well. But you do get potentially a massive payoff with this Fat Chocobo, right? So you do really need to massively invest in like a large majority of your cards being just like Chocobos in order to get this effect off, right? When you're playing this card, if you can get 2 cards, like 2 Chocobos, which like is actually below average, like assuming that you have 50% cards in your deck as Chocobos, revealing top 5, it's actually below average, you'll get 2, right? So pretty much it's a free backup in pretty much most cases, right? So, but there is a small chance that you get free cards. On free cards, this card becomes completely free, right? So you replace the 4 CP you use to play this card, and you replace the actual Fat Chocobo as well, right? And that's like kind of on average as well, so it's slightly above average, but then we're getting into the lucky territory, right? It's not that unrealistic to get 4 out of 5 cards as Chocobos, and in that sort of situation, oh yeah, cool, you've now just like come out 1 card ahead, right? And then in the absolute god situation, right, you get 5 Chocobos, you're just like so far ahead. Just go turn 1 Fat Chocobo, get 5 Chocobos, get like a ton of cards, and yeah, just like start playing backups and other stuff from there. So obviously, like, because this card is a unique backup, you can only play it once per game. But if you can break it, or if you can return it to your hand, such as with a card like Miyun, then you can do that all over again. So just like, imagine just going turn 1 Fat Chocobo, getting like 3 or 4 Chocobos, play Miyun, bounce back up, draw a card, play Fat Chocobo again, just pick up another ton of cards, and then like just like play more backups, right? So this is like super cool potential to just like have massive like early game like plays of just like getting a shit ton of cards, right? So yeah, it trades off the potential to go for a longer game with the previous Fat Chocobo just constantly buffing you guys, but this card just gives you so much value very early on, right? And there are other ways to like break this backup as well, using there's a ton of forwards that can now do it pretty like cost efficiently, or you can even play cards like the Wind Riku from Opus 1 that can bounce any number of your backups back to your hand. Actually, that's actually not bad, right? So you think about it, you go Fat Chocobo, get a bunch of cards, play Miyun, bounce Fat Chocobo, and then you play Fat Chocobo again, get a whole bunch of cards, then you pay 4 CP, play the Opus 1 Riku, bounce both your Fat Chocobo and your Miyun back to hand, you do that same combo again, Fat Chocobo into Miyun, so you probably, you might have like 13 cards in your hand after that point. Okay, all right, note to self, we're going to try this deck. We're going to try building this deck. See what we can do with this. But yeah, okay. So for the exchange of just having massive bursts of value, you lose ability to just like fight as well. With the previous Opus 4 Fat Chocobo. But yeah, maybe I'm getting a little bit too excited here about this card. But yeah, it seems pretty fun. Next card is Deuce. It is a 1 CP 3k forward, so it's pretty cheap. It's a Class 0 Cadet. Forwards other than Deuce you control gain plus 1000 power, and drop Class 0 Cadets forwards other than Deuce you control gain plus 1000 power. So it's actually just like a very good cheap buff for cadets, but you can also just splash it into any other deck that can just like run like wind as well. That being said, though, it is 3000 power, so it is like basically killable to any removal. I think pretty much like all removal can just like 3k and also like kill a 1 cost, right? So it's just like super easy to kill. But yeah, like it is effectively like a very temporary like a Maria or Sylph, right? So if you were going to play, if you're like going to splash in a little bit of wind, it's probably better to play Sylph if you want to give your guys a plus 1k buff, because effectively it's the same 1k buff that you can sort of rely on, whereas Deuce, you might go into attack like with the expectation that like Deuce is giving you guys buffs, and then your opponent removes your Deuce and all of you guys, all of a sudden your guys power down and they just suck in combat, right? So she's kind of unreliable she's kind of unreliable in general. But in Class 0 Cadets, she effectively gives all other cadets like plus 2000 power. And like some of you guys might be thinking, oh yeah, you know, back in Opus 3, you had Fire Ace that give all your other cadets plus 1000 power, but for free CP. Now this Deuce can do it for 1 CP, man. So, and it actually gets twice as much buff, like plus 2k power. So it's just like really good like buff value for cadets deck, but super easily removed. So like, I don't know if you really want to rely upon it. Also, it clashes with Classic Deuce as well. So Classic Deuce was a backup that's, for Wind Dull, choose one attacking forward, deal 2000 damage, which probably not so good in the current metagame, but it was pretty good back then. And also, it just had a really strong S ability, Concerto. For S Wind Dull, choose one forward, deal 4000 damage for each job Class 0 Cadets you control, and Class 0 Cadets could spam the field pretty easily, so it was a pretty easy, at least 8k back in the day, and probably like 12k pretty easily. So yeah, so this Deuce does clash with that. So obviously in title series, like potentially we can just like play a title series deck with like not even that many like that many unique cadets. Just like go 6 cadets, right? And just have a ton of them and just like do a whole bunch of S effects with them, right? But yeah, that being said though, this card is just because of its body size, it's just a little bit unreliable. So if this card was just a little bit bigger, maybe like even a free CP 5k probably would have been like fine. But yeah, just like 1 CP 3k is just too small to really rely upon it. Yeah. So because of that, it's a solid card, but it's just very unreliable. So I wouldn't want to play it. So I like my cards to do stuff, and I like to be able to rely on my cards to do stuff. And when I rely on this card, it's just going to let me down. It's going to let me down. So yeah, if you guys want Heartbreak, then play Deuce, because at some point you're going to rely on her buff, and then your opponent's going to blow up, and then you're like, why? Why did I put my faith in Deuce? Next card, Balthier. Oh, man. Man, what? Why? Okay, so it's a 5 cost AK forward. It's a Sky Pirate, so it's below the curve already, right? When Balthier enters the field, select one of the 3 following actions. Choose one monster of cost 2 or less, break it. That's fine. Choose one for deal at 4000 damage. Ooh, wow. Or you may pay 2 wind. If you do so, choose one for deal at 7000 damage. Why is this card so expensive, man? Like in Opus 1, like, okay, I'm gonna say this, okay, from Opus 1 to Opus 9, we would have power crept a lot by now, alright? So, like, the card, like, a large majority of Opus 1 cards is just, like, unplayable in today's metagame, right? In Opus 1, we had a card called Furion. It was a 4 cost AK that came into play to deal 4000, right? Okay, now I'm not saying that wind has to do stuff as well as fire, but like Balthier should be doing more than like 4000 damage when it's played, considering he's a 5 cost, man. 5 cost. Alright, cool. Like choose a monster of cost 2 or less, break it. I guess that's kind of handy, except wind already has a ton of ways to break monsters super easily, such as Alexander and Matoya and whatever, right? So yeah. And like the final ability, pay 2 extra wind, just steal 7k. It's just so expensive, man. Paying 7 CP to get an AK body and like just deal 7k damage. It's not even good, man. Like, just play some card that's got some sort of removal ability attached to its body inherently. And yeah, in addition to this Balthier doesn't even have EX Burst, man. This card wouldn't have been overpowered even if you chucked EX Burst on him, right? So, yeah, it's like, he is so expensive for what he does, man. He's so expensive. And like, I think he's just literally the worst Balthier of old Balthiers we had, right? And like, people don't even play Sky Pirates, man. People don't even play Sky Pirates or Balthier, and this card is the worst Balthier of them all, right? So you got two Balthiers that can search for other Sky Pirates. At least they have an effect, and you have one Balthier that was just like straight up a decent fighter, 4-cost AK that can like deal some damage and reactivates, alright? So yeah, those Balthiers all have a use. This Balthier just seems overcosted, right? So why does Square Enix hate Sky Pirates? I do not know. But yeah, this card's bad. And spoiler alert, there's more bad Sky Pirates along the way. Talking about that, Penelo, alright? So 4 CP backup. When Penelo enters the field, you may search for one job Sky Pirate and add to your hand. Also, it's got Wind Dull. Choose one job Sky Pirate forward you control. It gains plus 1,000 power until the end of the turn. And her job is Dancer. Why? Like, every aspect of this card is just purposely throttled to be bad, right? So, like I was saying earlier in the set review, they really decided with the win cards of set that we're just going to purposely make them bad. Like, they aren't bad in that they proactively lose you the game, but like, we make them bad just so just so the cost of everything just makes everything unworth it, right? So yes, it's fine for it to be a 4 CP backup that searches for a card. So it's not like it's a 2 CP backup at the end of the day. So it's not bad in that regard. But like, in situations where like the pool of searchable targets is this shallow, generally you would expect it to be a free CP backup, right? So like, there's a ton of free CP backups that just like search for only a couple of cards, right? And they're probably wider. So like, there's I think Sylph or something that searches for seed candidates. And then, like, there were other cards that search for Tiviots or other, like, really narrow things. Sky Pirates are equally as narrow as all those things, because there's literally only 3 of them. Or, like, 4 of them, technically. So yeah, so it's, like, not that many targets. So, A, this Penelo could have been free CP, alright? And B, this Penelo could have been free CP and EX Burst, so it would have been totally fine. No, it would not have broken the game. Like, I doubt it would even be, like, competitively playable if it was free CP EX Burst, alright? So that's my first complaint about this card, right? In that it just like, it's overcosted for what it does, and doesn't have EX Burst. Secondly, its ability of like Wind Dull, choose a Sky Pirate you control, gives plus 1,000 power into end of turn. Look, in earlier sets we had Edgar, which was just dull, choose any category 6, give it a plus 1k buff, and then we had Waka, which is like also dull, choose any category 10, get a 1k buff, right? Penelo is, why does Penelo... So Penelo doesn't even, like, buff, like, Category 12. It's buff Job Sky Pirates, right? So that's, like, super narrow, right? It's literally only 4 forwards, okay? And you have to pay 1 win to do it? Why, okay? It should at least be, if they want to make you pay win, it should be Win Dull, all your Sky Pirates get plus 1,000. I can get behind that, right? But it should have been just, like... It just should have been, like, dull this card, just give a Sky Pirate 1k. This, why did they make you pay 1 win for this? Like, why, right? They just, like, purposely hate Sky Pirates so bad. Were Sky Pirates, like, OP in Chapter Series? Someone in the comment section below, tell me. Were they OP in Chapter Series? Is that why they're just, like, purposely making them bad here? Because, yeah, these are just, like, bad cards, right? But, enough shitting on this card. Let's talk about actual use for this card. Yes, you can play this on turn 1. And then search for Balthier, and then following turn you can play Balthier to search for Fran, and then you can play Fran as a backup, right? So it does chain backups, right? So you can chain a forward, so you can chain this backup into a forward into another backup, right? So it does give your Sky Pirate deck some pretty good consistency, but it's still so bad. It's still so bad. So bad. So bad. Next card. Fran. Now, this card's actually good. Alright, so I think they had to balance out how good this Fran is with how bad the other Sky Pirates have to be. So, it's a 2 CP backup, it's a Sky Pirate. If you control a card named Balthier, forward, okay, yeah, so I guess you have to have a Balthier forward. The cost for playing Fran onto the field is reduced by 1. When Fran enters the field, choose one forward your opponent controls, deal 3,000 damage. For Win Dull, put Fran into break zone, choose one forward, deal 6,000 damage. So this is a pretty good card actually. So like straight up, like if you happen to have Balthier, it costs like 1 CP. 1 CP backup that deals 3k on entries. That's like really good cost effectiveness, right? And like Balthier does search for it, so like you can pretty consistently guarantee that it's just going to be like a 3k damage on entry. So yeah, so it's like pretty good in that regard. Also, yeah, it can just like later in the game, if you want to clear up your backups, you can go like just break it, deal 6k, and 6k is a pretty respectable amount of damage. So it kills like a large majority of 2 costs, and it kills like anything small as well. It kills anything small as well. Not only that, it's just its enter ability of 3k damage. Even if you're not getting the Balthier discount, it's actually fine. Dealing 3k on entry for a 2 CV backup. So it does have its uses. So basically, it allows you to kill Layla Vikings, and it kills like any of the small Zidane, so it kills like the 3 CP Wind Zidane, and also kills the 2 CP Water Zidane as well. So yeah, it's just like good anti-aggro, like anti-weenie aggro early on. It can get cheaper, and you can break it later on to clear the space, and 6k is like a pretty solid block of damage, although it is kind of awkward, right? So at 6k, it's not, you're overkilling for trading, so like if you're running your 6k or your 7k into your opponent's like 9 or 10k, you only needed like another 3 or 4k to like get a line, right? So 6k is kind of just overshooting. So yeah, so I don't know, maybe like would have preferred like win dull, break it for like 4 or 5k or something. That would have been fine. But yeah, win dull, 6k is pretty solid. I guess like you can go win dull, break it, deal 6k to the guy, and then just play a fresh new Fran for another 3k. So you're just like killing a 9k. Actually, now that I say that, it's not too bad, the 6k, but like 6k is just a very awkward number. It's not 7k because it's like not, yeah, so it's not 7k, so it's not killing 7ks. And it's a little bit too high for like that extra bit of trading damage. But overall, can't fault this card. Everything's very solid. The only just like little annoying thing is that 6k is a little bit of an awkward number. But otherwise, overall, it's a pretty good card. It's probably in the same sort of tier as the green Y'shtola backup that can like deal a bit of damage on entry, and you can break it for like damage later on. So it's probably in that same sort of tier of like usability in terms of win backups. The next card we'll be talking about is the Magus Sisters. It is a 4-cost 7,000 power EX burst. When the Magus Sisters enters the field, you may search for 1 card and put it into your break zone. When the Magus Sisters is put from the field into a break zone, you may remove 1 card named Magus Sisters in your break zone from the game. When you do so, play this card from your break zone onto the field dull. So basically, this card is like Vanille Light. Basically, when it enters play, you kind of want to search for Magus Sisters, put it into your bin, and then when this Magus Sisters dies, you can then remove 1 of the Magus Sisters from your bin and then put it back into play dull, right? So, and when it comes back into play, you can then trigger off its enter play ability again, put another Magus Sisters in the bin, it dies, comes back a third time, right? So ultimately, this card can revive twice, so you get effectively like free times of a 7k forward, right? So it's very similar to Vanille in that like they're both basically the same stats. And she does recur less, so she does revive less, but she doesn't have the restriction that Vanille that you have to just like chuck in 6 Hecaton Cares into your summon line. So Magus Sisters requires much less deck space to use, but the revivals are a little bit more restricted. That being said though, Vanille does become significantly worse in the mid to late game just because you've drawn so many Hecaton Cares that you might only be able to revive Vanille maybe like 2 or 3 times in a game. But with Magus Sisters, you're pretty much guaranteed to always be able to revive her twice during the game unless some get put into your break zone. So yeah, so like straight up, it's a durable forward that you can use to just like let it die or let it be sacrificed and stuff, right? The annoying thing about this card is that it is below the curve. So yeah, it's a little bit below the curve. It's 4 cost 7k, so it's not a great combat unit. That being said though, if you look at it in terms of this, like if you're paying 4 CP to put this card into play initially, you are getting free 7ks technically, right? So technically you're paying 1.333 CP. Let's just round it to 1.5 CP per 7k. So technically that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. So yeah, so like it's gonna be real difficult to find space to put this into certain decks just because there's so many good win forwards. But maybe this might be relevant in the metagame where there's like just like a ton of Veritas and a ton of Famfrits and shit that you can just like play this card. Cool, like I get my own sort of vanille type card, and we're good. Also to note, like drawing extra Magus Sisters early on in the game doesn't affect this card's effectiveness just because like, so if you draw Magus Sisters, you can just pitch them away to play other cards and later on like those Magus sisters will still be able to remove themselves from the game in order to revive Magus sisters. So drawing them early on doesn't dick you over, as opposed to Vanille, where if you draw like 2 or 3 Hecatons early on, you're just like, oh shit, Vanille's like really bad now, right? So you're not under pressure to get Vanille sister, get Magus sisters down in the early game, whereas you really want to get Vanille down onto the field as soon as possible, right? Also, do note that it says search your deck for any card and put it into a break zone. So certain strategies that might want specific cards into a break zone can use this card to like search those out. So one of my mates is talking about building Opus II Golbez again, the one with the 4 different Archfiends. So you can use Magus sisters to more consistently put those Archfiends from your deck into your break zone to make Golbez's power like more effective. And other things like that. So I guess you can use it to like put in like Feral Chaos into your break zone so that your Fey Mimic Go-Go can, not your Fey Mimic Go, your regular Go-Go can have Haste Brave First Strike. Other little weird like obscure combos like that can be played with Magus Sisters. So this card has 2 uses. One as just like a straight up value card, and 2, yeah, you can put it in instinct combo decks, and that's where the real fun of this card begins. But yeah, so this is definitely one of those cards I'm just going to keep in the back of my mind. I might test it a little bit just to like put it into like a more general sort of deck to see how well it stands up. But overall, I think that this card might be a bit of a sleeper. I think people like might start playing this card a little bit more in the near future. So yeah, keep an eye on this card. Next, we have the first legendary, the first win legendary of the set. It's Yasmat. It is a 9 cost 10,000 power forward. So like there are very few 10,000 power forwards in the game. And here we have another one. It's got EX Burst. When Yasmat enters the field or at the beginning of your main phase 1, select one of the 3 following actions. Choose on forward of cost 5 or more, break it. Choose on monster, break it. Or activate all characters you control. So this card is really overcosted in my opinion, and that's probably because of the fact that it's got EX Burst, right? So I don't think we currently, like, actually we do, yeah. So, like, we do have Alexander's that EX Burst that kill 5 or more, so, yeah, so this Yasmat can do that. So this card's, like ability, or this card's value, really just comes from its, like, super flexible EX Burst, right? You don't want to play this card onto the field, but if your EX Burst is just so good, right? It's just like straight up kill a forward of 5 or more, kill a forward of 5 or more. That's pretty good, right? Kill a monster, I guess that's just like a flexible option to use, and also activate all backups you control, or like activate all characters you control. They don't even have to be win characters, so it's like a better bots, right? So if you're playing this, it's like you're playing it for its EX Burst, right? You don't want to play it as a forward because like committing 9 CP to this forward isn't particularly good. When you've got like basically Diabolos for free that could just like kill a 5 cost for free, why pay 9 CP for that? Right? So in terms of the first ability of just killing a forward of cost 5 or more, there's like much more cheap and efficient ways to do that in Wind. In terms of breaking a monster, there's much more efficient and cheap ways to do that in Wind. And also activating all characters you control, there are much more efficient ways of doing that in Wind, right? So Wind can do each of these things much easier. Much easier each time, right? So, but like people might be saying, oh yeah, Jason, you get it every time at the start of your main phase 1. Okay, cool, right? So let me put it to you this way, right? If your opponent isn't able to remove your Yasmat from the field, are they going to be playing a 5 cost forward during their turn? Probably not, right? Oh yeah, same thing goes with monsters. Oh yeah, if they can't get rid of Yasmat, are they going to put a monster down? No, alright? Also, oh yeah, cool. So if your opponent doesn't have a forward of cost 5 or more, and they don't have a monster, what are you going? You're just going to choose a third effect at the start of your main phase 1. Cool. So at the start of your turn, you untap all your stuff. You draw your 2 cards, now main phase 1. Oh, cool, activate all characters you control. All your stuff's already activated, right? So it's like, oh, cool, any frozen guys get reacted, right? But yeah, I guess you can add some stuff to the stack. So like, yeah, in response to like activate all characters you control, like do Yuri twice or something, right? But yeah, so it's like, see, just like playing it as a forward is like not that good because like, cool, yes, you get like 1 interplay ability, at a very expensive cost, mind you. And then afterwards, it's very difficult to like get any additional value from this afterwards. I believe, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's why I don't think this card's particularly good. It's much better to play cost-efficient cards that do any of these 3 things. Like it's better to play cards that do like one of these things each, than to play one card that's really bad or really expensive at doing any of those 3. So yeah, so the only value out of this card is the fact that it's EX Burst, right? But if you're going to play this card just for its strict EX Burst purposes, it's like, Yeah, cool. Like, why not just play like a whole ton of EX bursts in your deck and just like hope you hit those EX bursts at the right time, right? It's just completely luck. So, I do not like to rely on luck in order to win games, but if you do, then play Yasmat because there's so much flexibility in how this EX burst is going to help you out. Talking about the second win legendary of the set, we have Luso. It is a 2 CP 5k forward, so it's just on the it's just on curve, but it's probably a little bit slightly below curve for the current metagame. So it's a FFTA2 category. For each forward other than Luso you control, Luso gains plus 1000 power. So, like, not particularly amazing ability. If there are 3 or more different elements amongst forwards you control, Luso gains First Strike and Brave. So that's not necessarily just when he attacks, so he's just like full stop. He always has First Strike Brave, so on defense it's pretty solid. And when Luso attacks, if there are 5 or more different elements among forwards you control, Luso deals your opponent 1 point of damage. So this is pretty sweet. So there's 2 ways to like really trigger off his abilities, right? You either just play a ton of dudes with a whole bunch of elements to trigger off this ability, or you just play one dude with all elements, right? And so there are only 2 cards that are really going to synergize with Luso, right? So you got Golbez and you got Yuri. So upside to Golbez is that it inherently searches for Luso, and it gives you 3 other buddies to pair up with him. So it means that inherently he's going to be like pretty big size, and yeah, all you need to do is just add 1 more forward of a different element to allow him to deal like 1 point damage. Because do note that Luso does count himself as an element as well. So if you have 4 guys out with Luso, then yeah, you just need to add 1 more to get to the 5 different elements, and then you're done. So yeah, that's with Golbez. With Yuri though, you don't have to sacrifice anything. You just play a straight Yuri, and then Luso can like have old abilities, right? But Luso's still small at this stage, so Luso would just be 6,000 power forward if you just got Luso Yuri, right? The benefit to Luso Yuri is you can just play Luso, and if your opponent doesn't get rid of it, next turn you just play Yuri and just swing with the Luso, right? So the Yuri doesn't actually have to do anything. You just like need it on the field, right? So anytime the Luso can attack, if you just have a Yuri on the field, he'll trigger off like the ability to deal 1 point damage to your opponent, and he has First Strike Brave, but he's still pretty small, so it probably doesn't help you out all that much. So this card is kind of like the Fire Archangel that deals double damage when it attacks, but it's kind of both worse and good, right? So the way that it's worse is that when this card declares an attack, your opponent receives 1 point of damage, so your opponent can potentially EX burst a card that will just straight up kill Luso, right? So assuming that, like, let's say if your opponent just like doesn't have any forwards on the field that they can like defend with or block with, if you attack with this Luso, yes, you get you get to use ability, you point 1 point of damage to your opponent then gets Famfred or something, right? And then like, oh yeah, cool, like your Luso dies. So yeah, so you don't necessarily get to like 2 damage when this guy attacks. Like 1 point of damage for his ability and 1 point for his attack. Because yeah, the first EX burst might just like stop the attack completely, right? So that is something to note. But on the upside, if you only need to do 1 point of damage, then like you don't even need to attack through, right? So you can guarantee at least 1 damage, but it's much more difficult to get the second damage, right? So yeah, so I guess in like later game, your opponent really has to prioritize killing Luso because otherwise he's just gonna like snipe your opponent for damage, right? That being said though, this card is otherwise like pretty underwhelming or pretty difficult to sort of like make use of unless you have specifically like a Yuri on the field, right? So admittedly, Wind does have ways to search for Yuri, and I guess like Fire Wind can like Lartov him back in and do some whole bunch of stuff. So Yuri's got a decent amount of support that you can pretty consistently get Yuri onto the field. But yeah, how consistently can you get Luso to attack while Yuri's on the field is probably going to be the difficult part. And so because of that, this card is probably like a little bit too gimmicky to play. It's definitely going to be cool if you get it right, and it's definitely going to be people who are going to just like chuck him into their mono Wind like FFCC decks to just have a little bit of that memeness. But I'm in serious competitive mode right now, and so like this is not seriously competitive good, but it is some fun memeage. Probably on the same level as Warrior of Light Bart's, the one that can attack 3 times in a turn or something. It's probably that level of memeage. But yeah, so yeah, if you happen to have a whole bunch of these in your collection and you just want to build a deck around it, it's just like one of those casual cards where if it's sitting in your binder, you might as well use it, right? Just have some fun with it. So yeah, not a great card, but do it for some fun memes. Next we have Rem. It is a 4-cost 6k forward, so it's way below curve. It's a class 0 cadet. If Rem is dealt damage, reduce the damage by 3,000 instead. So that's from any source of damage, forward, summons, abilities, and so on. At the end of your turn, activate Rem, and then for Dull, choose 1 forward other than Rem activated. So it's kind of an underwhelming forward. It's a very defensive forward. So like it can block AKs and not die. So that's a thing. And yeah, and so like you can attack with her, or you can just like use her like dull ability during your turn as well. So yeah, you can have like a forward on the field, attack with your big forward, and then like end of your turn you act. So like, and then you use Rem's ability, dull Rem, reactivate the other guy, and then end the turn reactivate Rem. So Rem's just sort of like a really solid defensive forward. Yeah, so like, and then when Rem blocks, after the block, you can then like dull Rem to reactivate another guy, right? So it's like very resistant to a whole bunch of like dull freeze effects, and it does sort of like give your other guys a lot of protection against that as well. And it's just like a pretty solid body. And yeah, and so any strategies that also like rely upon packet damage, or like multiple packets of damage to like kill guys are going to really struggle with Rem, just because like it's a 3,000 reduction for each packet of damage. Yeah, remember back in the day when like legendary light warrior of light just reduced the damage by 2,000, and that was annoying to kill. Now we just have a whole bunch of cards that just like reduce by way more packs of damage, right? So Rem like reducing by 3,000 packs of damage does make this like card surprisingly difficult to deal with, unless you're like water or lightning, in which case you just like neg its power to 0. Super easy, right? So yeah, don't play this card against water or lightning, because she's gonna like auto die probably. That being said though, not sure if you even really want to play this card in general, because she clashes with one of the better Class 0 cadets from the early sets, which is a 4-cost Rem EX Burst. When Rem enters field, choose on category 0 card from your break zone, add it to your hand. Now that Rem, not only could it return like any like category type 0 card, so like it could return any cadets, Agito cadets, any of the like lessees, yeah, it could return those, but it could also return the type 0 summons as well. So like those were actually pretty good summons, but they were restricted to Class 0 cadets. So yeah, Rem was really good. It was EX Burst as well, and this Rem unfortunately clashes with it. So that's a real big issue with the Class 0 cadets for this set. They just like they make these ones that are okay playable, but they just replace really good ones from the previous sets, man. Yeah, and like if they made some of these like these current new class cadets have different names. If they were like 8, or if they were like Trey or something, no one would even care. People would like play them, right? Because they don't clash with like the bad ones, they clash with good ones. Like these cards become really difficult to play. But yeah, so I guess in title series you can just like play just the good ones. Just like Trey, just play like Rem, play 7, play Ace. Just play the good cadets, right? In title series. But yeah, yeah. Next card, we got another Rem. So this one is 2 CP backup, job class 0 cadet, obviously. For dull, choose one job class 0 cadet forward you control, gets plus 1,000 pill at end of turn. So it's very similar to Waka and Edgar in that they both like dull, choose one category X forward, and it gains plus 1,000 power. So Rem is technically a little bit more narrow in that it only chooses job class 0 cadets. It does not buff like type 0 category in general. So it is a little bit more narrow in that. Yeah, so again, why does it have to be named Rem though? Like why? Like there are like 13 class 0 cadets, right? There's like quite a couple. Yeah. Why does this set have to like only have like 5 class 0 cadets and like make 2 of each one of them, right? Yeah. I just don't understand it. They purposely just like make like, why even like include class 0 cadets in this set at all if you're just going to gimp them really hard, right? There were so many class 0 cadets that you could have like used in this set, but they chose not to. Yeah. And do note that I actually realized this as well, that there was like because the issue with class 0 cadets is that a lot of their forwards are bad, but their original backups are actually pretty good. And I looked into it, and it's like, oh yeah, did you know Ace is the only like male class 0 cadet that is the backup. All the other class 0 cadet backups are all like female, right? So you got Cater, Rem, Deuce, all of those are good, right? So they remade them for this set, and like made them forwards as well, like equally as bad forwards as like as the previous Class 0 cadet forwards. Yeah, if they could have made like 9 as a backup, or they could have made like Queen as a backup. Like Queen probably could have been a backup, right? But yeah, they had to make these backups like cards like Rem and shit that we don't want more copies of, because like we've already got good Rems and we've got good 7s already. So yeah. Really gonna be really hard to play this Rem. Like outside of title series, this card probably won't see play, right? Because you probably want the like EX Burst Rem. So yeah, unfortunate. And that's the last card of our set review. I know that this set review has been a little bit more ranty and a little bit more negative in general, but I hope you guys have enjoyed the spicy memes that I've dropped in this video. And that's it, guys. So, were there any cards in this video that you think I might have overrated or underrated? If there's any strategies that you think I might not have touched upon, or any sort of ideas that I might not have really sort of explored, do let me know in the comment section down below, and we can discuss and chat and really sort of delve deeper in some of these ideas. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. And until next time, Grand J out.